these policies will, I don't mean could, I mean will, put more children into poverty. So you wait till you hear what he's got to say. I won't spoil the surprise. It'll be like Christmas. Everyone will hear it at the same time. What they're going to do when they talk about cuts to people on the benefit with children. They're being very, very generous. Very generous.
For an interview.
Half of those benefits are sent to go to a payment card and money management scheme. This was part of your deal with your coalition partner, ACT, and yet they're the so-called party of rights and freedom, yet you're taking a freedom away to decide how people should spend their money.
Well, let's be clear. The rights and responsibilities side of it is you have rights and freedoms as a New Zealander, but you also have duties and responsibilities. And when you take a job seeker benefit, which your fellow New Zealander is paying...
Is it wrong that I say they being politicians in this point in time, the National Party, always talk about the rights and responsibilities of poor people? We never really hear fuck all about it when they're talking about their wealthy mates, do we? Like the rights and responsibilities of paying fair amounts of tax sort of thing, Chewy. But it's always very important to use that attack on the vulnerable and the poor. Yeah, you've got rights, but responsibilities. Well, but hang on, you've got rights, wealthy people, but what are your responsibilities? We just never really hear a government going after them when it comes to responsibilities. They just get a free pass, it seems. Look, I can't do a rant like you. I'm done. That's 45 seconds and that's just me. That's me done. But I got one yes, Pat, in the chat, so I'm happy, not 47 like Chewy got.
Paying for through their taxes, you have a responsibility to do the minimum of we're asking you to do, which is get your CV together, go to a job interview, check in with your case manager.
How many?
Not rocket science.
How many people?
Not difficult. And so what we've got is after us, if you stay, you've got 5 days to get out of amber, which is just get compliant, and that's great. And we're all good.
Sounds like a porn show to me. 5 days to get out of amber.
Get out of amber.
If you're actually persistent and you continue to be non-compliant with your...
Okay, hang on. Let's just pause for you to think. That's not a bad piece of content. It could be some kind of maybe not Discovery Channel, but some kind of documentary series of Okay, we'll leave that.
Obligations and refusing to do any of those basic things.
And these guys won't even talk to us. Do you ever wonder why, Chewy?
Then yes, you get a series of escalations, and that may mean half your benefit goes on to money management, which then enables you to, you're restricted as to where you can spend half that money at certain retailers. The next piece is you lose half the benefit, and the other piece is you lose the full amount. If you happen to be, if you think about the sanctions, we've seen a big uplift in sanctions being applied this quarter versus last quarter last year. About 90% of them are actually people with no children. And we've also kept it so that if there are dependent children in a household, that you don't lose the full benefit, but you can lose up to half of it.
Oh, how generous are they, Chewy? If you've got kids, you're only going to lose half of your benefit. Now, it doesn't matter that you're paying more than half your benefit in rent, but if you've got kids, you'll only lose... generosity, thy name is Baldilocks. Only half, Chewy. These policies will put children into poverty. If they're already in poverty, technically, it will put them further into poverty. This is the exact definition of knee on the neck of the vulnerable. Chewy.
But remember, there's only a relatively small amount of them. I'm not going to tell you how many. I'm not going to tell you how long they've been unemployed.
How much
I'm not going to tell you how long they've been non-compliant for. Because if he was forced to answer those questions, I think the vast majority of people would go, that's an acceptable cost.
Yep.
Because most people aren't cunts. This payment card thing, right? There's so much that's just being left out there for people to fill in the gaps, right? We're going to put them on payment cards because if we don't, they'll send it on booze and cigarettes and pokies, right? They've pointed out that these cards can only be used at certain retailers. Now, in my job, in my last couple of jobs, actually, I've had interactions with people on these WINS cards as they exist now.
Yeah.
So say you're unemployed and your cell phone dies. And of course you need a cell phone to be contactable, both for potential jobs and WINS and making sure you're all compliant and that sort of thing. So they give you maybe a grant or something on one of these payment cards. So you look for a phone that you can afford with this grant, and maybe you go into the shop that's got the best price. Now, does that shop accept that payment card?
Mm.
In the case of my last couple of employers, no. There is one shop that sells cell phones that accepts that card. It's the Warehouse.
Right.
So they might not have the best price. You know, that's where they go because they have to. You know, and that's going to be the same thing for groceries. You know, you go and do your grocery shop on one of these payment cards, but God help you if you have something that is on the list of non-compliant items in your whole shopping basket. You won't be able to use it. It's just patronizing.
But it's actually worse than that, Chewy. Because let's just say it's cigarettes or alcohol, right? Oh, no. Let's just say you have an addiction issue and you haven't got over it yet. What you'll end up doing is you end up saying to somebody else, you give me $120 cash and I'll give you $150 on my card. I'll buy your groceries and you give me $120 for it. So actually what it'll do, it'll end up having people be in more desperation. That's what these cards will do. I've been involved with those cards. You know, when my marriage broke up, I was pretty destitute for a while, and still am kind of, but nothing like that. And it was fine because we were using them for food, and it was a pack and save, no problems. It worked for us for that system. But you know, this is what happens with food stamps in America: is people sell them, and they sell them for lesser value than what they're worth, and then they end up being worse off. So and then the government will say, oh, you know, responsibility, same as the children, responsibility. It's not as easy. If you could fold a life up in such an easy package, yeah, sure, fine. Theoretically, life doesn't work like that. Lives don't work like that. There are difficulties in life that aren't solved by a simple tick. It's more difficult. And if you're not going to be nuanced in this, then you are going to cause harm. You are going to put more children into poverty by trying to sanction the parent half of their fucking budget. You're going to do that because you can't go, tick. Everyone should fit into these boxes. That's not what society is. That's not what people are. And it is, I mean, I can't think of another word, but it is just bloody evil. It's evil and it's mean to do this to the most vulnerable, poorest people in our country.
This is where UBI comes into it for me, right? There's economic benefits and there's social cohesion benefits, right?
Yeah.
Give people dignity. That is something that is mentioned every time. Like here we have, if you're on Job Seeker at the moment and you see the leader of this country go on the news and just basically go, well, you know, if we just leave it alone, people stay on Job Seeker because it's fun. You know that that's not true, but that's what the Prime Minister's got up there and said. That's why people talk about dignity. That woman that was in the clip that we watched yesterday that was like, oh, well, sometimes I like to get some coffee and a packet of biscuits.
Yeah.
Extravagant. Definitely go after her. What the fuck? You know, in one of the UBI studies that I've read, I think it was Finland, as they targeted it at people that had addiction issues, long-term homeless, had long-term unemployed, that sort of thing. And they found a tiny percentage of that money went into funding that sort of lifestyle, went into booze or drugs or whatever. Most people saw it as the opportunity that it was, that someone wasn't breathing down their neck, but they could go and get an apartment. They could get their shit sorted out. They had the dignity of a little bit of space to do it. And that is my firm belief that that's what people want.